Hey guys, we should be streaming here. Happy Friday, everyone. Today is May 26th. It's like I said, it's Friday. It is the beginning of a long weekend here in the United States. And I just thought that it'd been a while since I've done a live stream, and that's just not acceptable. So time to do a quick little one. I want to talk a little bit about sketch constraints. And because I got an email about somebody asking me, kind of like trying to understand what it really means. And if you're, definitely if you're foreign like me, I understand how those different terminologies, perpendicular and all that stuff, what it really means. I'm going to explain that quick. And then I also got a question on the YouTube channel about how to do a car rim. And I'm not going to model the whole thing up and make it all pretty, but I thought at least I can get it started and kind of like show how I would kind of approach it. That would be the revolve command. So super excited. I can see we already got some people in here, and that is absolutely awesome. I just gotta scroll down so I can see the live chat area here. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna throw in my email address in here because one of the things about live streaming on YouTube is that you cannot, at least as far as I know, you cannot save all the comments. But what I want to do is I would really love if you would share with me what you would like me to do here on the live stream for the future. So any ideas are more than welcome. Now, I'm not going to model up, something crazy that's going to take a long time, a car or something like that. But if there's certain questions or, these topics that maybe is not worth creating like one of the bigger video productions, I would love it. So I'm just going to throw in my email here in the chat. And then I'm, of course, also going to make sure that it's in the comments or in the description area of the video when after it's live, it would automatically be posted to the YouTube channel. So here is my email address. So definitely feel free to send me an email on anything that you kind of like inside of Fusion that you maybe think could be cool to do in a quick little live stream here. These are really kind of like meant to be relaxed and not, I'm not going to spend a lot of time preparing for these, pretty much just ad hoc and just get in there. So, like I said, thank you everybody who have already jumped in here, and absolutely appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. This is absolutely this is awesome. So, enough of me talking here. The email address is in the chat, and I will make sure it's in the description of the video too, so when it gets posted you will have my email address in there. Shoot me any ideas that you would have that you would like me to maybe do, kind of like small tips and tricks or whatever you're thinking of. All right, enough of me. Let's jump into to Fusion here, and let's talk a little bit about these sketch relations, because especially if you're new, right? Dude, I don't blame anybody for being a little bit confused about this whole thing. So I'm going to start a new sketch. And as soon as you do that, that's when you get these constraints appearing over here. My rule is that whenever you're sketching something, you should always tie down the sketches, fully constrain them. And what I mean by that is that if I just go in here and hit L, for line, and I start sketching something, this is all good. This is all a good sketch. But the thing is that, it absolutely can float around like this. Now, you can absolutely go in and extrude this and be all happy with this. The problem is that at some point, somebody's going to go into this sketch here, and they're going to do something completely different, and now you have a completely different shape. I call this my $500 mistake, because that was what happened to me in back in when I started using CAD in the beginning. I was kind of like, you know what, this constraints and dimensions and all, tying the sketches down, it's freaking takes too long. I'm not going to worry about it. And then, of course, one day I was standing out at the CNC machine and I couldn't fit an insert into a pocket that I had machined, and I couldn't understand why. And of course, what had happened was that I must have opened up the sketch and I must have dragged one of these corners, and that was a $500 mistake. So we don't want to do that. So what I'm talking about is that we will define the sketches. Now, one thing I should maybe just show you, if I get out of the sketch here, one of the settings you want to turn on, if you go into your preference settings here, and you go down to preview, in here there's a option called sketch color, or color sketch geometry based on constraint. You want to turn that one on. That is going to change the color of your sketches. And actually, just if you are watching this in a week or so, I don't think you have to anymore, because I think it's coming out of preview. I'm not 100% sure, but make sure you have turned that one on. What that will do is that we can go in and work with this one, that when it's all turned, all fully defined, the lines will turn black, and that will tell us that it's fully constrained. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about working with these different constraints over here. And you'll see that the software is smart enough to know which ones it can use in any given point. So if I draw a circle like this here, so now I have this box and I have a circle, you will see that now I have more constraints available because I just did a circle. So let's just talk a little bit about the different ones. So the first one is coincident. And what it really means is that it's normally have to do with a point. And there's maybe a better explanation for this, but this is going to be my kind of like attempt on doing this. If I make a coincident if I click on it and I make it between this point in the center of the circle and this line, you will see that the circle center point is now coincident with the line. Now that means that it can still move up and down that line, but it will. Whoa, ooh, this is the fun thing about. I should probably have come up with a better example than this. But it can move up and down the line here. If I can not go too crazy with my mouse, that is the coincident to a line. But if I went ahead and instead made it coincident from point to point, you will see that now it gets right on the point, and now it's tied in to that point. So coincident is almost like, a control from a point to either a line or another point or an origin, kind of like a coincident like that. So I could also go ahead and do coincident between this and the origin, for example, and it will tie it down to the origin of it here. The next one is collinear. And collinear is meaning two lines being on top of each other. So if I go ahead here and I create another thing here, another box, if I do collinear between this line and this line, they will end up being right on top of each other. So that's what collinear means. Two linear lines on top of each other. Concentric it kind of shows it almost like two circles on top of one another. So if we do concentric between this circle and this circle, you will see that they now are on the same center point. Midpoint. So if you've ever tried to hit a line, draw a line on another line, when you come over, you will see that it turns into a triangle, and that is a midpoint of here. So you can actually do that. So if I sketch a line here, I can use that midpoint constraint from here to this line, and it will set itself right on the midpoint. I'm going pretty quick over this, but I hope that this is a little bit helpful. Um, in the regards to the next one here, fix or unfix. So right now this thing is moving around. If you're using fix, then it turns green, and that means that now this circle cannot move. It's locked completely down in space. It's like you used a nail to do that. You can see how it's green on the screen. I hope that comes through pretty good here. But I normally don't use fix and unfix. Really, the only time I would ever really use that is if you're using splines. So somebody's going to say, what is a spline? A spline is a line with curvature in it. So when you do a spline, you kind of like get these two handles, whoops, and you can add curvature to this shape here. If I can hit the handle like this. So that's a spline you see there. And they can end up with a lot of points on it. There, I think it's okay to use the fix and unfix. But generally, when you're sketching different things, I really don't think you should be using the fix and unfix, honestly. The next one is parallel. That is nice if you have two lines like this here, and one is like this. If you use the parallel, you will see that these two lines are now parallel. So that's kind of nice. So that's parallel. Perpendicular is an interesting thing. You would actually see it many times when you are doing a box, because it will make a 90-degree angle. So let's do a perpendicular between here and here, and that will now be a 90-degree angle between here and here. Next one is horizontal vertical, and I've actually had a couple of people who's kind of like a little confused why there's not two. What the software does is it will pick what is the smallest angle. So if this one here, you can see this one is almost vertical. So if I'm using the vertical constraint, then it will become vertical. And then the other way, if it's like almost horizontal, then it will become horizontal. So that's how that works. I can do it again. So this one here, you see that it's almost vertical. That means it'll apply the vertical constraint, and almost horizontal, it will use that one there. Hope that kind of makes sense. The next one is a tangency, and that is kind of important, I think. Especially if you're sketching something. Let me go ahead and use like a 3-point arc maybe, or something like that. If I'm sketching an arc, and then I'm going to add a line to this here. If you're ever sketching something where you kind of like are moving around and you get these arcs, these, if they're not tangent, then these are really the ones that will kind of like tie themselves up and become really strange very quickly when you're adding your different dimensions to them. So whenever I'm sketching something up where there is a arc in it, I will always use the tangency first. That will be the first constraint that I will apply to it. And what it does is it will create a tangency between the arc and the line. And that's the symbol right there. Now where I'm showing this, also just be aware of, if you didn't know this, if I hold down Control and I select this line and I select the arc, if I right click, you will actually see that, you see how the software is smart enough over here. It's only showing over in the lower right here what constraints can be used. And it actually does the same thing right inside the right mouse button here. So if you're a little bit lazy and don't want to go over here all the time, you can actually find them, the same ones right over here. So you can make that tangent. So that's tangency. Anytime I'm sketching and there's an arc involved in it, that's always the first thing I would kind of like look for over here, is to see if there's tendency on them, if I see this symbol. And if I don't, that's the first one I add. Next one is smooth. And that, I really, you guys might have another use of it. I really only have used this one if I do work with a spline somehow. Because what it does is it adds what is called G2 to it. And G2 is kind of like curvature kind of thing. So if I go in here and I create a spline between here and here, and hit the little green check mark there. Oops. Spline from here to here. There you go. Now I can, instead, I could use those handles like I did before, but I can use this smooth to go in and select the spline and select this edge, and it will actually give it a G2 right there. I'm not quite sure what it's going to do when I try to do it here. Yeah, it still makes it smooth, but of course not what I wanted. That's of course how it always goes. I don't know if I can change that. No. But now it's going to blow up on me. So I can actually grab these points and I can actually pull in them. There we go. So the smooth constraint will add that G2 to the spline. So that's the only time I've used them. Next one down here is equal. So we had our two lines before. We have the line here and we have the line here. And that will make those two equal. So select that line and that line. That will make them equal length. When I use them the most is probably actually when I do circles, I think. Like you have to make a couple of holes and you use the equal between the two. So you put a dimension, hit D on the keyboard. You put a dimension on one of them. Of course. So I would have that other. Never mind, forget about that circle over there. So I would normally create a dimension here, make that 2 inches, and then I will use the equal one for the other one to make them the same size. So now if I go in and I change this one to 4, then the other one will follow along. Last one is one that I actually use quite a bit, and that is symmetry, if you ever watched any of my videos. So many times what I will do is that I will create a line from here to here, and then you can use the symmetry. Now the symmetry here, you select 1 point, 2 point, and then the line, and now you have symmetry between those points. So I use that quite a bit. I could also use it maybe down here, from here to here to here, and then I would have the symmetry in here. So that's a nice one. So I hope that this was worth a little bit of time to kind of like run through. I hope that I didn't run through it a little too fast. But I just got the question yesterday to explain the different ones, and instead of creating like a big video, I did this. If you want to see another one, I know if you go to the Fusion 360 YouTube channel and you search Constraints, I'm pretty sure that somebody, I don't know if it was Curtis Chan or Tyler, maybe somebody did a quick tip on it too, a little tutorial on it too. But I definitely hope that this was kind of helpful. All right, cool. I'm going to jump in and quickly try to do that rim that I was talking about. So that was a question I got yesterday on YouTube, on one of my YouTube videos. How would you do a rim? And I just thought that might be cool to do. Again, you guys would just jump in if you, in the beginning, if you scroll up in the beginning of the chat, I put in my email address. I would love if you will shoot me a quick email telling me if there's any kind of things you want me to show here on these live streams. I just, keep it somewhat simple. I don't want to go much more than 30 minutes in these. So, I'm not gonna model up the Hoover Dam or something crazy like that. All right, let's go in and look at the at the car rim here. And maybe just to kind of like, oh, now I just closed down. Why did I close down Fusion? That was not clever. I didn't want to close down Fusion, but I did. Well, while that is shutting down. So what I did, I actually sent the guy a link, but I think that I can probably explain it better on the live stream than just sending him a link to a picture. What I did was I sent him a link here. I typed into Google cross-section of a rim. And then I just went into images, because what I would probably do is I would probably just do something like you see here, like the cross-section, and then I would revolve it. I should probably fire up Fusion now when I'm talking here. So that's probably how I would approach this. And again, I'm not going to do this fully define this or anything, but I just thought that maybe I could quickly just show how I would start doing this. So Fusion loads up quick. That's good. Let's do that. Move it over on my other screen here just so I have some kind of reference. And again, this is going to be somewhat somewhat cheap and dirty, but bear with me. Let's go in here and start a new sketch, and it doesn't really matter what plane you select here. I would probably create a line on the center and just make that some kind of a height. I don't know. All you guys who know a lot more about cars than me, you're probably gonna kind of like laugh at me now, but I'm just gonna sketch something appropriate. So I'm just gonna make the first line over here is gonna kind of like be the one I'm gonna revolve around. The second one here is probably gonna be more like my I'm gonna use that as a kind of like a reference. I'm gonna hit a dimension on here just to keep it somewhat real. I don't know what would be a good number. I'm gonna make it 8 inches. And then I'm just going to kind of like sketch up the so I'm going to revolve around this one, sketch up the profile here. And again, this is kind of like how I think I would do it, but I'm not sure that this is necessarily like the world best way to do it. So let me go in and do a 3-point arc just to kind of like start something that's going to look somewhat like this. And I would probably sketch up a line up like this, and this would be perfect with all the fully defined. Now here's a little tip. I'm in the line command. If I move back to my first point and I hold down the left mouse button, I actually get an arc. So that's kind of cool. So I can do a little arc here. Let me do another line, and then just to show you again, I'm still in the line command. I'm going to left click. See, here's the line. I'm going to move back to the point, hold down my left mouse button, and now I'm actually, see how I'm getting another arc out of that? That's kind of cool, right? So you can do that. Next, it depends on where you're starting, on how, of course, now it's going there we go. I want it up like that. And then I'm going to kind of close it off, something like that. That's going to be the beginning of the rim here, I think. Let me just go down to about there. Do a little bit of arc there, over to the line there. And see, here's a perfect example, what I talked about before. I look here and I see all the different tangency constraints, but you'll see that I'm missing a couple. So before, I'm not going to take the time to dimension all this, but before I would move on, I would absolutely go in here and just select these areas here. So go in and I'm going to probably do a control select, and then I could go down here and do tangency. So I make sure that I get the tangencies that is missing on here, because this is where when you start dimensioning it, it definitely will fold. So if there's anything you get out of this, go ahead and do that. Okay, this tendency here. This one here is at an angle. I don't know if it would be at an angle. I don't want it at an angle. I want it to be horizontal. So that tangency. There we go. All right, so this is kind of like the beginning, I think, of the rim here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to mirror this sketch geometry, so I don't have to, I'm assuming that's going to be the same, kind of like on the other line. So I'm going to find the midpoint over here. See how that has a little triangle on it? I'm hovering, triangle, midpoint. Do a line out there, and I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit the X. That's going to make it a construction line, because I really don't care too much about it. Then I'm going to do a window around here. And go over and do a mirror. So I have the 19 component selected. I'm going to select the line. And now I kind of like, hey, I got a mirror over that. So that's kind of cool. So all these are now mirrored components. And let me just create a line from here to here. And then I'm also going to create a line. I'm actually going to go a little bit past here. Let me just wrap this up. I'm going to come up here to wherever that line is. I'm just going to make that horizontal. Now, of course, if you're doing a real car rim, you're probably doing, you got to dimension it and all the other stuff. Put all the constraints on it. But let me just show you. So I'm going to go in here and do a revolve. And I'm going to select each of these sections and select the axis to spin around. And that would probably be my rim. I mean, I know that this is not perfect, but that would probably how I would start. You could, of course, if we go back into our sketch here, we could do something like another section in here, and then if we go back out to our revolved, and we pick that piece, you would get a closed rim, and then you could start cutting out the different spokes in there if you wanted to. But I don't know if I would do that. Delete that out of there. I think I would probably, because they normally would be maybe be round, right? Or or a little bit of, not round maybe, but some kind of an organic shape in there. I think this is where I would start, and then maybe by creating some other planes, you could start adding out the spokes, and you could revolve them around or something like that. But I hope that this, I really hope that this is kind of helpful for you guys to see this. Like I said, I haven't practiced this too much. I made this perfect. This is definitely not, this is not going to go into production, I promise you. But yeah, I'm just going to go in here. I see that we got a few people looking here, so that's just awesome. Again, thank you so much, guys, for jumping in here and checking this out. I hope that these are helpful. Again, at the beginning of the chat, my email address, I would love, shoot me what topic you want me to do in these live streams. Like I said, keeping them about 30 minutes long. I don't want to really spend a lot of time preparing for them. I really don't want to prepare for them. In general, I don't like to prepare. But yeah, and I'll try to do some of them. I can't promise I'm going to do your entry, but, hey, love to. So what I'm going to do is, I see here, I'm just going to run quickly down and see if there's anything that possibly, any questions that I can answer right as we're running along here. All right, rim plan for hub-centric or lock-centric? Not sure what that means. All right, that was my email, so you got that. I'm not going to spend too much time with this. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to stop the broadcasting, but then I'm going to go in and actually chat with you guys who are around. So don't leave if you want to chat. If you have any questions, so fire them inside of the chat, and I will answer them in there. Now, for you guys who just jumped in, this is going to be recorded, and this will be posted up on the YouTube channel probably within the hour or something like that. So if you missed it, check it out. Yeah, And down in the description area, I will put in my email address. So if you have any future topics for these live streams, throw them in there and maybe we can figure out to do them. So I'm going to stop the broadcast, but I will be in the chat for a little bit. Hey, thank you so much for all of you guys who jumped in and watched this little this live stream. Until the next time, take care and have an awesome weekend for you guys who are in the United States. Enjoy the extra day you get, and take care, everybody. Thank you.